You are listening to the Million Dollar Coach Business Podcast with Amanda Carlstad, episode number 273. Welcome to the Million Dollar Coach Business Podcast, a show for coaches who are ready to uplevel their business and take their impact, leadership, and results to $1 million level and beyond. If you're ready to break through your limitations and start taking powerful action and become the seven-figure version of you that your business needs in order to grow, scale, and thrive, this show is for you. I'm your host, Amanda Carlstad, master coach, high-level business mentor and advisor, master intuitive, and business growth and scaling expert. Let's get down to business. Hello and Happy New Year, y'all. Welcome to 2025. I hope you had a fantastic holiday season and a very happy and healthy start to this new year. And I hope you're ready to make 2025 your year. I have been reflecting a lot over the past few weeks. And I have to tell you, one of the things that I've been thinking about, and I've been having some conversations with clients about, is just what an awesome time it is to be doing this work. What a great time it is to be a coach, to be in this game of building and growing and scaling your business. Your work is so important in this world, all of you listening. And I'm so excited to be kicking off this new year and to be bringing you this podcast. It's going to be, I know, a fantastic year. And I want to remind you that as we kick off this new year and step into 2025, I want to remind you that your work is very much needed and it's so important in the world. And one of my intentions with this podcast is to really be bringing to you a weekly masterclass, whether that be talking about business strategy or leadership. This could be self-leadership, talking about team leadership, thought leadership, talking about success mindset, emotional intelligence, serving as inspiration or motivation, showing you possibility and opening you up to new potential, and really creating a seven-figure and beyond identity. All of these things are really at the foundation of the work that I do. And my intention with this podcast is to bring you pieces of this each and every week that you can use and apply and make real change in your business or maybe even personally. And so as I've been going over content that I have released now through over 270 episodes of this podcast, which this podcast, thank you so much, is a top ranked podcast. It is a podcast that I've created, produced, that I've released content each and every week for well over 5 years now. And it's really the culmination of being in it with my clients and being in this game, in this journey of growing and scaling my own business. And now having the privilege of having coached hundreds of clients in my mastermind programs to create multi-six, seven figures and beyond in their businesses, I can confidently say that the concepts that I'm bringing to you in these episodes, the concepts that I am bringing to you today, the time, the energy, the thought, the care, all of the things that I put into this podcast each and every week has been and is one of my most favorite parts of my own process, one of my favorite parts of my own journey. And I'm just so grateful to have this medium. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for those that have rated this show, that have shared this show. And thanks for just showing up to do this work in the world, to really be taking on the challenge of growing a business and being a coach in this world. It really is, I believe, some of the most important work that we can do. So just some thoughts as we kick off this new year and start out with this podcast. I just have a feeling it's going to be a great year. And again, want to remind you that your work is so needed and so important. And I'm so excited that you're here. So let's go ahead and let's dive in. One of the things that I have been thinking a lot about over the past couple of weeks and really reflecting on is what it really takes and who you must become to create $1 million business. So one of the things that I think is really important to consider is that $1 million business is a business that can generate or does generate $1 million or more in annual revenue. So in a 12-month period. And so when I talk about $1 million business, a lot of times I'm referring to a business that generates that 7 figures or more in a 12-month period in revenue. But I also want to open you up to the idea that $1 million business could also be a business that generates $1 million or more over the course of perhaps maybe 2 or even 3 years, or maybe even more. So while the business might not be at a level yet that it's generating 7 figures or more in a year-long period, it still has or is generating 7 figures in revenue. And so you might be at a place in your business where you're consistently generating $200K, $250K, $300K or more in your business. And the reason that I've been thinking a lot about this is because I think there's a lot of coaches in this place in their business. And in our industry, there has been this almost unwritten quote unquote rule, and I'm using quotations here because it really isn't a rule, but it's something that I think has been established in a very real way, especially in certain communities within our industry, that in many ways kind of pedestalizes businesses in this way. And the problem that I see with this, while that's not inherently always a bad thing, the problem is that I see a lot of coaches that then use this against themselves, that use this against their own progress, that use it against their own kind of look at where they're at in their own business and just start really using it to beat themselves up in a way. And they really start to beat themselves up that they haven't hit that $1 million mark in a 12-month period. And I think if you're doing this, and especially if you're unaware and doing this can be very detrimental to your success, to your overall mindset, to your confidence level, to your emotional health. And so part of why I want to start opening up this conversation with all of you, and I want to open you up to this idea, is because I really believe that it can serve you in a lot of different ways. And in my experience, when you are, for example, generating multiple 6 figures in your business, and you're in a place where you're doing the work of taking things to that next level, it's a very exciting place to be in the business. And it's also a very pivotal time in the business. And I talk a lot in this podcast about why that is. And I talk a lot about that transition in particular, going from that, 6-figure, multi-6-figure level to 7 figures. And in fact, that's really the basis of all of my work. But I also want to be sure that in that transition, in the process of taking things to the next level, that while you're in that process, that you're also not beating yourself up unnecessarily for not being at a certain level, that you're recognizing the progress that you've made, that you're really taking the very important lessons that you're being taught in that process, in that transition, that is ultimately so very important to helping you make that leap to 7 figures. Because one of the things that I see happen over and over again for coaches that are in this place in their business, especially if they feel like they've reached a plateau, or perhaps maybe they're not growing at the rate or to the level that they think they should be growing, is that there are so many things that then start to creep up and that start kicking in from a mindset, from an emotional perspective at this level of business. And unless you're really aware and you're seeing this, in my experience, working with a high-level coach who can really help you see this, unless you're doing that, what will happen so quickly is that in your effort, in that push to get to that next level ASAP, and this, by the way, can happen even before, even if you're working towards your first 6 figures, this can happen. What happens is in that push, in that urgency to get to that next level ASAP, what happens is that you start to make really costly decisions in your business. You start to get very impatient in the business. You start to make big changes to the business. You start to chase what I call shiny objects. And what happens from there is you'll always find out that whatever that shiny object is still doesn't ultimately solve the real issue. And you really just go back to where you started, or maybe even worse, because in some cases, especially if you're more established, you've maybe made changes or made decisions that now have far greater impact than you originally could see. So this is why, in my opinion, if you are truly serious about taking things to the next level, this is why it's so vital that you have eyes on your business, that you are being coached at a high level, that you are being supported by a coach that is really able to see these things and really essentially call you out when you're going down a path that isn't actually serving the business or you. And so this is why it's vital that you're not trying to solve million-dollar problems in your business with quick overnight flashy tactics or new things that you might see, for example, on social media. I'm telling you, the real work of this journey, it is hard. It requires patience. It requires commitment. It requires diligence. It requires good execution. And fortunately and unfortunately, this process of growing and scaling a business is not a forgiving process. It's a process that I always say is not for the faint of heart. But that also doesn't mean that it's not worth it. That also doesn't mean that the work, that the business and the level of success that you truly do want and what it requires of you isn't a worthy cause. In fact, I believe it's one of the most worthy causes there is because of what it requires of you, because of who you will be called to be as you move through this process, because of who you get to be, because of who you become, and as you become a stronger and more effective leader for your business, for your clients. And the most powerful opponent that you are up against in this journey will be yourself, will be your current and old paradigms, your current and old belief systems, the emotional states that you call home most often. So the level of intention that is required, the level of openness that you are able to demonstrate and be willing to look at for yourself and for your business, being able to look at your results, to take full responsibility for all of them, to really look at things from an objective lens, that is what it takes. And for some of you, it can and it will happen very quickly. And for others of you, it might take a little bit longer than you think. But if you really get real about this, I want you to really consider what is the alternative. Have you really considered what that is? Or is it just a fantasy? And maybe you're not really looking at the reality of it and really understanding what that might be for you. So I want you to really look at this, especially if you're in a place where you're not where you want to be and you're feeling uncomfortable right now and you wish that things were maybe different, or you wish that, last year was maybe different. Believe me, I've been there, and it's a hard place to be. And it's also the best place to be because it's an opportunity that you have right in front of you for it to be a catalyst for you, for your business. And you're experiencing it because you're meant to experience it. And you get to choose and decide differently how you want to respond. So perhaps this message today, today's episode, is meant to be that call for you to consciously choose, to make a committed decision, to really think about and decide who you will become in 2025, because the success will always be the byproduct of who you become and who you are being first and foremost. So I want you to ask yourself, when you consider December 31st of 2025, what do you want to be able to say about what you did this year? What do you want to be able to say about yourself and who you were in this coming year? What version of you would you most be proud of? What version of you would have the greatest impact? What version of you would create the success that you truly want? And how are you deciding and then stepping into that today? These are some really important and powerful questions that I would encourage you to take some time with and do some work around, because what you decide and commit to today, the actions that you take from today moving forward, how you choose to show up will have an impact and will determine the level of success that you have this year. And it's something that you get to choose every day. And my friends, some seasons in your business, just know they will be harder than others. There will be some seasons where you might feel like you're on top of the world. And you'll have other seasons where you'll feel like you're at your lowest low. And it's all normal. The key is that you want to hold strong in all of these moments, even in the moments of high emotion, to your identity as that 7-figure and beyond coach, as the CEO, as the coach who creates value at a level that's beyond 7 figures, that is not swayed by external factors, who can maintain a posture of composure, even in the most difficult situations and seasons. That, my friends, is when things start to change. So who are you going to become in 2025? I'd love to know. Have an awesome week. I will talk to you all again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the $1 Million Coach Business Podcast. If you're ready to step into the $1 million version of yourself and scale your business to 6, multi-6, or 7 figures and beyond, go to amandakarlstadcoaching.com.